hello, good morning. Welcome to Intent. This is where we start our week off with intention. Let's just make sure that we are going live on all of the right places. My wife and I were just planning. Oh, shoot, I can't remember the name of the holiday. We were just planning for our future holidays, our future witchcrafty holidays. And let me just see if we're rolling live. Well, apparently I'm supposed to be live, but I'm not sure if I actually am on, oh, I'm totally live. I'm totally live. Oh my God, I was in the totally wrong place. Okay, well that works great. And then we're going to check out on LinkedIn to make sure that we're good. And then we'll hit this road. I'm trying to find a way of saying that that's not quite so violent. Like, why do we, oh my God, negotiating a salary. I'm going to save this on LinkedIn and then share it, because that's amazing. You know how I feel about negotiating salaries. Hardcore. Let's see. I'm going to my profile. Let's go to my profile and just make sure that I'm live. Okay. Okay, great. Fabulous. All right, so we're live. Listen, first things first, though, is I want to, I see that there, and I'm going to move the YouTube one here so I can see all the comments. Okay, great. We've got the comments. We've got the YouTube live. We are hip and happening. So, I want to start by saying check out the, oh my God, what is it that I want you to check out? I want you to check out my LinkedIn feed today. There is a hot jobs post I want you to take a look at. So we're going to just start off with some really good stuff, like really, really good stuff. And it's going to be the hot jobs post today. Seriously, I'm going to tell you the jobs that are currently, sorry, I'm just fixing my microphone. For some reason, it's not staying up. There we go. The jobs that are available right now are intense salary wise. Like there's some good stuff coming out there right now. So definitely check out the hot jobs post that I made. There are some, let me actually take a look, because when I was going through the ResAdmin mailing list yesterday, one of the things that struck me was the salary, the compensation amount. Okay. So the compensation amounts are, much higher than I have typically seen for research administrative positions historically. So you know that one of my biggest challenges, one of the things that pisses me off the most in the world, is that thematically across the country, research administrators are being paid at let's say half of what the value of the position is by default, not even taking into consideration someone's additional certifications, expertise, experience, and so on. That's how weirdly and inappropriately skewed our salaries are for research administration. We know this to be true. There are a number of research studies going on right now. There's an NSF study that's happening that's also on my page. Make sure that you fill that out, because it's a survey to find out what our salaries are. There are conversations happening about this at FRA, at PRA, at annual meetings, at region meetings. They're happening in the research administrative level. The challenge and the biggest conversation that happens is how can we advocate for ourselves with leadership and human resources and all the people that we need to advocate with ourselves for to be able to get the salaries that we deserve, especially considering that we don't exist in a vacuum, research administration, and that considering that a lot of organizations that are involved in research have such a challenging time right now related to income, grants, funding, politics. There's a lot of things going on in the world that are creating pressures on the organizations in which we work that are then making it so that their budgets are limited and they have to decide what to do with that budget. And if you take the fact that research administration salaries have typically and historically already been low, and we've already had that perspective, what that means then is that as you're dealing with a crisis, we are still going to continue to be at the bottom of that crisis. So while they're dealing with the nurses, which is very important, and the doctors, which is also very important, and the researchers, which is also very important, we at Admin are often left by the wayside in the research administration space in terms of additional dollars to be able to fund the research enterprise. So they're like, oh, we want to grow research, and they think about their lab space, and they think about the people they need to hire and the big names and whatnot, but they don't think about how much money they need to put into their research administration infrastructure and salary support to be able to actually maintain and make this research vision that they have a realistic one, as opposed to just a really great idea that in 5 years you're going to be crying about because you didn't have enough research administrative support. Now, the only way to actually solve that problem is, well, I mean, there's many. The only way, I make it sound like there's just one thing, but really it's not. I mean, there's a lot of things, but this one thing will make a very, 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 very big difference, enough to compensate for a lot of the other things. Compensate dollars. Dollars. RAs getting paid higher salaries says a lot about the organization that is hiring them. And so today, what I found really interesting, so I'm like so psyched right now, because this particular grouping of jobs, so we've got some from Howard University, great salary there, post-award analyst, 68 is on the low side, but the high side is 85, so going to the 85 there, and this looks like a post-award analyst position, so it's not like a higher level position, so this is great, plus you get to work at a HSBCU, which is great. Now Rand, which was interesting. Okay, so Rand really knocks it out of the park with their salary. 73.7 starts at the low end. High end is $107,000 for a subcontract administrator. That is that's a solid salary for higher than I've been seeing in many, many other places. Another place that was super high and great was Carol Finch has something at UC San Diego. So, and these are not exec level positions. These are research administrator or research RA2 positions. There's one, this one I think was for, if you are looking for a VP or an executive director position, there are a couple that I found that were interesting. One is in Minnesota. It's on site though, which is why I didn't put it there. And I can't remember what the other one is, but there's executive level salary positions as well, if that is something that you're looking for. So check out the hot jobs post, check out the hot jobs post. Do not forget though, just as a reminder, when you apply for these positions, when you go looking, one, feel free to reach out to me if you want me to look at your resume or your LinkedIn or anything like that. And then the number two is don't forget to check out Dorothy Mashburn. Okay, definitely check out Dorothy Mashburn before you go into any of your job interviews, and because when you get, and I have a whole video on this, and we talk about this extensively in my podcast with her. I believe it was episode. Stop. I'm gonna have to actually. I actually have to put my like top 5 episodes up over here because I always forget what the numbers of them are. But like these are ones that seriously people just ask. They watch them over and over and over again. So this is episode 82 with Dorothy Mashburn, and talks about how to negotiate your worth. And the reason why this is so important, we'll watch the video, and it'll tell you all the things. But it's because once you get hired, your salary raises are usually going to be capped by the cost of living increases that are applicable to the organization that you're at. So if you get hired at 100,000, your raises are going to be 2%, 2%. Now, granted, 2% of 100,000 is 2,000, and that's a nice amount of money. But if you, let's say 2% of 150,000 is a lot more, right? So, and it's so critical that we have the skills necessary to be able to demand the salary compensation that we deserve for the work that we do. This holds true for everyone, not just research administrators. And so Dorothy Mashburn can help with that. So check out the hot jobs and check out Dorothy Mashburn. All right. Next thing today, we're going to talk about one more thing, and then we're going to dive right into the AM 66 again. So yes. So as I was going through the intent from last week, I had such a good time because first of all, I got to like see my own work all over again, and that like, oh, this is not like, hey, look, I did this, which that was fun too, but it was more the oh, this is coming up, oh, and oh, this is a session, and I literally just talked about it. I was already excited about it, but as editing the video, I was like, oh my God, these sessions are really good. So keep an eye out also on my LinkedIn. If you are someone who has not yet subscribed, make sure to ring the bell, follow the LinkedIn. I'll have one TikTok, please. No, make sure to follow me on LinkedIn. And the reason why is because not everybody has time to sit and watch me for an hour in the mornings, and I totally get that. It's mostly, a lot of times, for me, it's a way to maintain focus and make sure that I get the video content out that I need to. And the other is that it gives me the opportunity to connect with research administrators who happen to be online at the exact same time. We are not the chattiest group in the world when it comes to live streaming. I follow a British Midlands streamer who streams long form RPGs that are 4 or 5 hour long streams, and like, you know, conversations like just go on for like, oh my god, just like so many people talking all the time, like thousands of people. It's like, oh my god, it's insane. I don't even, and I will only, even as like literally, I will pop in once every, I don't know, hour or so, because someone will say something like on stream and I'll be like, oh, that's interesting. But like, I tend not to engage like the way a lot of other people do. And I feel like there's, maybe it's a generational thing. Maybe it's like, just, this is how we engage, or we're busy doing other stuff. We're in flow time, whatever. But it's just, it's very interesting because even me as a content consumer, I tend to be more of like a, just keep it on in the background, and maybe I'll hear it, maybe I don't. And I might make a flag to say, oh, I'm going to come back to this later or whatever. But the point is that unlike those live streams, these have some very tactical information that you can use. Like, actually, it's not true. They actually a lot of times have some very good information, very tactical, but neither here nor there. So for this conversation, though, not everybody has time to watch all of it, so I've cut them into shorter videos so that if there is something that you're interested in seeing at the NCURA AM66 and you're not sure what it's about, check out one of my short videos and be like, hey, this is what I'm going to go see it. This is why. This is what interested me about it. This is who's running it, that kind of thing. If you are someone who is not sure how to get the most out of a conference, or you're not sure where to go, or you're looking for some guidance, because I've been going to these conferences now for 20 something years. So I've figured out my cadence. I know that I've been literally, it's like like riding a bike, except I don't actually know how to ride a bike. So, but it's like riding a bike. I'm assuming if you knew how to ride a bike. But if you don't go to conferences as frequently as I do, or you don't find conferences intuitive, which I certainly didn't before when I was starting to go initially, it can be very challenging to figure out, like, I'm going to this event, it's big, there's a lot of people, I'm overwhelmed, I'm autistic, so I get very overwhelmed, and I initially, the first few years, I didn't really get a lot out of conferences because I was just like, the whole time, and I was so overwhelmed by all of the excitement and all the stuff that was happening, and it was a wonderful experience. But even with that, so this is the best piece of information I can give you, even with that, know this. Oh my god, I really hope that, hold on a sec, and I don't know. Okay, there we go. Okay. Even with that, let's go back. So even going to events and not being able to engage fully because I was overwhelmed, I was still able to meet people, have conversations, learn some stuff, and it made a huge difference. So it's actually, the environment itself is set up so that you will learn by osmosis just being there. The only way you probably will not learn anything from the conference is if you go and then you get a hotel room and just stay in your hotel room the whole day and don't leave it. That is probably the only way that you will, like, not get anything out of the conference, because you will have spent the whole time in the hotel room. But other than that, just being in the space, being around the people, is really, really exciting. Now, again, the challenge that we all run into is that it can be overwhelming. So what I did was I put together a list of all of the top topics and sessions that I was excited to go to. And last week we went through a whole bunch of them. And then this week we're going to go through the rest. And then I'm going to pepper them out over the course of the next couple of weeks. However, what I really want to stress before anything, and let me just make sure that we do this now so that you sign up for this. I don't want anybody to miss out on this. We have a really, really great opportunity coming your way thanks to the SCDEI committee from NCURA, Tanya, the most amazing, amazing woman in the world. She worked her ass off with her group to get, I'm finding it, I post a lot, there we go, to get Candace Taylor to come and do a webinar with us, and the webinar is on July 25th. Okay, so we're going to share my screen. Let me see. Now, I'm going to just tell you right now, I have absolutely not set up the shared desktop part, so when we share the desktop, I have no idea what's going to pop up. There we go. Nothing popped up. So, we're going to do window capture. Yeah. There you go. And then there we go. I have webinar registration Zoom. There we go. Done. Okay. So here we have it. This is the NCURA DEI webinar, Roots of Route 66, A Journey of Resilience and Progress. This is going to be hosted by our very own Tanya Blackwell. And Candace Taylor is going to be there to talk with us about... Hold on. Oh, I got the book. I just realized I'm like super little on the screen, but here you go. There we go. This is such... Honestly, what a gift. What a gift this event is. So if you have not heard me gush about this event before, my background, my degree, is actually in decolonization of history, right? Decolonization of archaeology. It was a really, really important thing that I was going to do for myself. Was I wanted to learn how to this is all for me. I got my degree, not like I wanted to actually get a job in this, but this was so many years ago, I didn't even know how I was going to use it. And I ultimately ended up deciding to become a research administrator. But this was something that was like really near and dear to my heart. And so to have it be this many years later and have had an intersection of my life's dream and also my other life's dream, which is research administration, is like, wow, that's like a marriage. I mean, that's like a great marriage, like a fab marriage, if you will, a fab marriage. This is what a powerful opportunity to be able to hear from her about how the legacy of our stories is important in terms of how we view ourselves now, and why knowing the true stories is important so that we can actually move forward in a healing way. It is such a beautiful, beautiful thing to decolonize, and it's a very painful and brutal thing to experience, right? In terms of decolonizing yourself and learning how some of these historical ideas have influenced us over time, how we didn't even know some of these things. Just, it's such a powerful experience. And for NCURA to provide an opportunity for us to do that together is a really beautiful thing. So if you have not yet had the opportunity to sign up for this, the link is on my LinkedIn. I'll be posting again about it. Keep an eye out. It's also available on the NCURA page. You can also look out in your email if you're a member of NCURA. If you want to register and you're like, I can't find the link, just send me a PM. I'm so happy to send you the link. It's not a problem at all. I have it on hand. I can just send you the link. We'll be good to go. Okay, so that takes care of that one thing. And then the other thing I wanted to share with you is, and then we're going to bring that here, is the program. And we're going to be talking about, there we go, we're at the program. Okay, I'm going to be really honest with you. I actually kind of lost the program. So like I see it on the screen. Well, I will in a minute. There you go. So you got the program. My problem is I don't actually know where the program is on my screen. I'm like, where are you, program? I know you're in here somewhere. There we go. Found it. Okay. Here we go. All right. So let's start talking about what some of the sessions are that I am so excited about coming up. All right. So there is, all right, a few. Okay. One of my favorites that I thought was absolutely hysterical is Lindsay Demerit and Cheryl Anderson are doing a session called How to Transfer an NIH Award in 73 Easy Steps. 73 easy steps. That's all it takes, people, is 73 easy steps. So it's funny because I've done a lot of NIH transfers, like so many NIH transfers. And even if you have done them for decades, you still know that even in the smoothest of situations, the number of steps that you need to take to get a grant transferred is enormous. Not to mention that there's a lot of counseling involved at the same time, because if an investigator hasn't moved institutions before, they do not necessarily understand how complicated getting the funds from one place to another is, how that actually mechanically works, how do I spend while I'm waiting, how do I get salaries done, and so on. And so there's a lot of coaching and guiding and hand-holding through the process. And so if you are new to PI transfers, or if you've never had a PI transfer before, or if you know that your organization is expanding its research enterprise, as we talked about earlier, and so we'll be hiring new investigators, this is a really, really good session to go to because honestly, transfers can be very intimidating. They can be very intimidating. They're pretty straightforward once you kind of like get to know them, and then the ones that are not are really not. Like they're so not, right? And then having the baseline framework, which is what I anticipate this conversation being about based off of the description, will then give you the confidence to be like, okay, I can handle a transfer comes in. I know where to go to get my questions answered if I need to, both on and off site. And I recognize that there's going to be circumstances or possibly situations where the transfer is so complicated that it is going to give me a migraine. And that's not me. That's sort of just a feature of the transfer mechanic. And so how do we do that? Okay. Love that. The other one that Syra and I really, really loved, like this one is some serious stuff. I really love this one. This is Jennifer Vesio and Matthew Michner doing a session called Forming Meaningful Relationships with Principal Investigators. This is going to be on August 6th from 4 to 5 p.m. And here's why this one in particular really, really thrills me. And it's because Syra and I, well, first of all, Syra is my sister, in case you don't know. And Syra is a research administrator, and we love talking research administration. Like, we have both been RAs for 25 years, and we talk about research administration constantly. Like, we love the concepts, we love the ideas, we love teaching it, we just love research administration, like, a lot. As a concept, as a job. One of our conversations we were having the other day, I was on my way to my massage, which I desperately needed because my body was in absolute freaking agony. Like, I was in so much pain. So I'm on my way to the massage, and we started talking about a video I had just recorded, but it actually didn't even come up in the context of my video. It came up in the context of Syra bringing this up in a session she was teaching. She's talking about how the most important thing that you can do when you become an RA is learn how to form a meaningful relationship with your principal investigator and have beyond a transactional conversation, beyond a transactional approach, right? How we do more than push paper and check off boxes, and they do more than simply hand us a bunch of stuff that makes our life difficult, right? We are the CFOs and the COOs of their research business enterprise, and they are the visionaries of this research business enterprise. And in there's a book called Rocket Fuel, that is, you could get the gist of it just by reading like an article about integrators and visionaries and rocket fuel, and it talks about the integration of two distinct and specific roles that has to exist for any enterprise to be scalable and actually grow. And one is an integrator and one is the visionary. But in order for that to happen, we have to have a relationship where we talk to each other, and not just about, hey, check this box, sign this thing, do that thing for me, right? There is an entire infrastructure of a relationship that makes it easier to simply get things done and to move forward because you are in shared partnership, right? So that when you get something from your investigator that maybe is late, you already knew about it because you have a relationship to where they reached out to you, they gave you the heads up, they told you why, they said they were sorry, they asked for permission, you figured out how to navigate it, and by the time it comes to you, it's not an emergency because you just heard about it 20 seconds ago. You've already figured out how you're going to mitigate this challenge. That only happens if a PI feels safe enough to have those conversations, or if you feel safe enough to do those things. There's a whole series of relationship building steps that happens in the middle that then makes it so that submitting grants is easier, doing post-award is more straightforward, and so on. So I am really, really excited that there is a discussion group happening about this where we can all come together and share our tactics and techniques for how we deepen those relationships. Because if you're a new RA, it can be really easy to get overwhelmed in all of the boxes you need to check off and the things that you need to do. If you're a seasoned RA, it can be very easy to just be like, I already have those relationships, or I can come back and develop those relationships later. I know how to do this. I just really need to get through my work right now. So no matter whether you're a seasoned RA or a brand new RA, we can all use skill development. And for those of us who are new to the field, seasoned in the field, we bring with us years of experience in terms of understanding PI pressures and challenges and the kinds of PIs that you might engage with, and how you might be able to mitigate some of your more difficult or challenging circumstances. At the same time, sharing about that will create an opportunity for newer RAs who have different methodologies and frameworks for how they engage in relationships, develop relationships, and so on, to give us their thoughts on new and exciting and non-traditional ways of developing those relationships. So I feel like this is a really important conversation, especially right now, because we are in that watershed moment of research administration. And in order for us to move forward, we are going to have to be more unified in terms of not research administration, but research administration, the ancillary departments, and most importantly, the visionary of the conversation, right, who helps us to figure out how, like, in the end, they have the vision. We may be the engine that keeps it running, but without the vision, what are we running the engine for, right? And so that's really the question, is they give us the reason that the engine runs, and then we make the engine run. All right, so that's a really, really good one. So excited about this one. This is discussion group 8-6, 4-5. Okay. Ho, ho, ho. And now this one's going to be precious. Okay. So I'm just going to tell you, all right, we have to do some full disclosure here, people. Full disclosure is that I just realized, I think Syra doesn't realize, Syra may not know that her session is on 8-7. I may need to tell her this. Okay, so from crisis to clarity, reinventing post-award processes with my sister, Syra Valley. Look at her. Isn't she cute? I love her. She's so smart. She is really smart. Now, here's why this is super important. This session is universally, every single event she has taught this session in has typically had this be the highest rated session. People freaking love this session. She gives it everywhere, and it is critical for helping to create a framework that does not add more pressure to your plate. So you know how, like, we can make our lives more difficult for ourselves. So for example, here, let's do this camera scene. I think that's the one. No, we're going here. Blank, just camera. There you go. We're here for a minute. Okay. You know how, like, for example, let's say I'm trying to get my cholesterol down. Okay. And I'm walking to get my cholesterol down, and maybe I'm taking a statin. Meanwhile, I am basically drinking dairy. Glug, 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 drinking cream, glug, 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 eating ice cream, glug, 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 right? Just like downing myself in like all kinds of cholesterol, red meat, give me some of that red meat. What other things have cholesterol? Whatever they are, I'm eating them a lot, right? Sure, the statins and the walking are helping, but I'm certainly not making my life easier by adding all of the cholesterol that then my body has to fight, right? So another example is Dr. Pepper for me. It's like, Dr. Pepper, I love it. Oh my God, I love Dr. Pepper so much. But when I have too much sugar, my body starts to say, we've got too much sugar. We need to cut this out, right? And I can feel how different my body feels, right? And so I can do a lot of other things, drink more water, walk, be healthy. But if I'm not getting rid of that sugar, my body still is metabolizing and it still feels it, right? So overall, I'm tired, I'm lethargic, and everything else just takes so much longer. And the reason why I bring this up is because Syra's session, okay, is designed using that framework on research administration post-award management, where you can check off the boxes of doing recons monthly and making sure you're doing your labor cost transfers and many other things that you can do on a regular basis to sort of just keep the boat floating and doing the thing. However, if the underlying infrastructure is such that it is constantly keeping you behind, or that the finances are, you're always having to redo the same activity more than once, or the portfolio requires, or the particular grant that you're looking at requires such flow time that you can't get, that now everything just keeps kind of building, and eventually it's going to become a crisis, right? Syra specializes. So this is her specialty as a consultant. So this is why she actually does this session, is to show. So as a consultant, what both of us find ourselves doing often is being tossed into the pit saying, here you go, figure it out, clean it up, and give it back, right? And you want to, I mean, as consultants obviously want, like, the organization has a limited amount of funds that they can spend on consultants, which means that we have to be able to get through a lot of things, which means we have to be very, very, very effective and very efficient and have some very specific systems and processes that you can rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, that only need modifications slightly for the organizational specificities, but that the actual framework of this remains the same, because ultimately the truth is it is the same. And if you are really, really, really interested in learning about this, or even only moderately interested in learning about this, I would strongly recommend checking out this session with Syra, because what the first thing it will allow you to do is it'll allow you to create a framework that then buys you more time, because you're not constantly feeling like you're behind or sliding into the pit of cleanup. The other thing that it does is Syra is the only, sorry, I totally got distracted in that second. So Syra is the person. So I have a video series on YouTube where I talk about, this is how you get to know your new investigator, and this is how you deal with a crisis, and so on. And I've actually 2 series, and both of them have come to halt. I was like, hey, Sy, can you help me out? Because she's so good at doing this that I don't want to do the videos for this. She's just that good. That why would I do this when Syra can make a video about this? And so Syra, we're going to have our 3rd installment of both of those video series. That's going to be reconciliations and crisis to clean up and so on. That is specifically geared to deal with these sorts of situations. So if you are coming to this event, do not miss the opportunity to see Syra live, ask questions. I'm not sure if I'm going to be there or not. Like I said, I'm going to be at AM 66, but I can't remember if I'm actually going to be teaching at that time. If I'm not, typically I'm in there and I kind of just jump in with my, one thing to remember or whatever, but like not much, like nothing else major. This is really Syra's session. But if I'm not, that'll be fine too. Like, in the end, Syra's the one. Like, Syra is the one. So mark this on your calendar. Do not miss the opportunity to say, oh, I was there, when someone says, hey, were you at Syra's session? Absolutely. Okay, so make sure we do that. All right. Let's see. What else? What else do we have coming up? What else do we have coming up? Okay. All right. I want to show you a, I'm actually might do the search this way. I might stop sharing and then do the search. So I'm going to show you like there's a meme that I found, but here we go. Let's stop sharing. Actually, we'll go here to this one. All right, scene countdown. It's actually really good. We actually finished it all up, right? Okay. So there are a lot of things to do at AM 66, like so many things to do at AM 66. What I would strongly recommend throughout the whole thing is go to the program, take a look at it in advance, scope out the hotel online, get an idea for the lay of the land. Everything that you need can be found in that general area. You don't need to drive to go anywhere, which is great. You can actually walk. It's a very great walking space. But I recommend making a list of the things that you want to do, like in terms of which sessions you want to attend and so on. And then play it by ear, right? Because you may not be able to attend all the sessions that you want to attend. Just make sure that you make a list of them, get the names so you can follow up with that person later. So even if you don't go to the event, like let's say you're not able to see Syra's because you're doing Jennifer's event, great, that's fine. Reach out to Syra and be like, hey, I was excited to attend your session. I wasn't able to. I've actually, one of the greatest networking tricks that I've actually learned, and it's not really a trick as much as it's just like, oh, wow, this works, is when you make this list and then you come back from the conference and you've got this whole list of things that you need to do, there's people now on that list that you want to talk to that maybe you didn't even meet, but you wanted to go to one of their sessions. Make sure that you just add that to the list now. And the reason why you want to do that now is because you're not going to remember later and you're like, oh, who was that person? What was that thing? If you maintain the list of people you want to connect with somewhere, and then go with the general process of once a week sending out an email to connect with somebody new and just having that be like part of your 15-minute process every week, you will get through not only your entire list of people that you need to network with, you will get through people that you didn't even know you need to network with. And the relationships that get built off of that are just beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. So definitely do that. What else? There was one. Oh, that was the last thing I wanted to share. The other thing I wanted to make sure that I talked about today was related to future sessions. So AM66 is coming up, but let's be real. The ship has pretty much sailed in terms of if you want to present, it's too late to present. If you want to volunteer, I think we're pretty much full on volunteers, but I don't really know. Make sure that you go to the volunteer page and double check. There will be socializing activities that you can sign up for, like dinner groups and whatnot, when you grab your badge and whatnot. However, let's say AM66 is now, you're like, I'm going to put this in the books for right now. I want to talk future talk. Let's talk about what other things are coming up. SRA has their annual meeting, which this year it's in Chicago, but this year they've already finished with their applications for this coming year. So keep an eye out for that. NCURA has the annual meeting routinely every year. So the cycle is going to come up again where you can submit. But right now, you can submit to present at FRA PRA. And that is happening in San Diego next year. Next year. It's happening in 2025 in San Diego. Lovely, lovely place. I actually was at one in San Diego many years ago. I will not be attending this year. I'm actually not going to be, after AM66, I'm not going to be flying as much. So my goal is to try to stay as East Coast as I possibly can. So if you are East Coast and you want me to come speak at your organization, I'm so game. I'll hop on a train or I'll drive down. We'll have a great time. So AM66 is my last flight. I was going to be taking it with my wife. Oh my God, not my last flight. Oh my God, that sounds terrible. It's my last flight for conferences for a while. I used to travel a lot. So I used to travel for speaking 3 or 4 times a month. Like I was in airports constantly. I was constantly traveling. I actually just got a note telling me that my airline miles were about to expire. And I was like, oh my God, how is that even possible? Because there was a time where I flew so much that like I was always getting bumped up and my airline miles never expired. And that was many, many years ago. And I remember thinking to myself at the time, my God, how will I live a life where I'm not constantly traveling all the time and living in the Dallas airport, Dallas and Georgia. I just lived in those airports. And how am I going to, like, it's Chicago. Oh my God, so much Chicago. American Airlines, in case you were curious, it was American Airlines. And then I didn't travel for because this was pre-COVID, right? So then during COVID, you just stop. And I was like, wow, I really like this. And I like this a lot. And then after COVID, obviously after COVID, I was just having panic attacks on planes left and right, just because, COVID, planes and whatnot. But I really just realized that I don't like flying. Like I can do it. I'm not afraid of it. I just don't like it. I don't like the way it makes me feel. I don't like it's a wonder of modern technology, but since I don't like it, then I'm like, all right, well, how can I structure my life that allows me to maintain to sort of stay in my East Coast, New England bubble, to try to drive around. So that's sort of just as I have been, and this is one of the reasons why I've been posting the hot jobs is because when you have options, that's when freedom comes, right? So like being an RA gives you the option to apply for any of those jobs, right? The experience kind of filters it out, says, okay, you can apply here, but first you have to know about it. And who has the time to go looking, right? Who has the time to go looking, especially if you're not actually looking, right? So let's say you're not actually looking for a job, so you're unhappy in your current job. And so you dive into work because you have all these things to get done, but there's no time to look for another job. The energy isn't there. The passion isn't there. The excitement isn't there. AM66 is a great place for you to network with people and find other jobs. The other element of that is that that's why I like to do the hot jobs, is to just get those options in front of people who may or may not be looking, but who may be open to looking for other positions because either they're unhappy where they work, the salaries aren't great, or what have you. Now, I don't mean to paint a picture of like doom and gloom here before as we start to wrap up in terms of our salaries and whatnot, but I'm going to tell you, one of the most common questions that I get from research administrators, like bar none, like it's not even close, is I want to talk to you about becoming a consultant. Of all levels, I have people who are brand new research administrators who've been doing this for 4 hours who want to become consultants. And I have people who've been doing this for decades who are ready to become consultants or who are thinking about it in the next few years. And to a person, they're not happy in their organizations for whatever reason. So And we're not going to be able to solve this problem by not shining a light on it, right? Just ignoring it or only talking positive thoughts and having toxic positivity, that's not going to do it. The only way that this problem actually gets solved, and I had to think about this for a really long time, like how to navigate this, because there's two different ways to solve the problem. One way to solve the problem is say, look at all these things that are wrong, right? We need to fix this. The other way is saying, this is my vision for what the future of the world can look like. It's a beautiful vision. I'm going to focus on all the things that are right and that we can make right, and so we can just double down on the right stuff. I actually don't like that first way of doing things. It makes me feel icky, and I don't like. I feel like as long as we're saying this is what's wrong, we're still talking about it in the framework of the horsemen that created the infrastructure that got us here in the first place, right? We got to start like from completely different, and so that's one of the reasons why I do the hot jobs. I'm happy to talk to anyone about their LinkedIn, about, I have resources that I can send you to who can help you get your LinkedIn spruced up, who can help you decide whether you do want to quit your job or don't want to quit your job, because I'm going to be really honest, quitting your job is not always the answer. I have a podcast coming up. It's episode 90 with Goli, and she talks about wherever you go, sometimes you can quit. You're like, oh my God, I hate my job. Everything sucks. And you quit your job and you go to another job, and then you find out that that job also sucks. And you quit that job and you go to another job and find that that job also sucks. And you realize that it's not so much the job, though the job itself may actually be very, very challenging, hard, overworked, and so on. It is also a reflection of how do you engage with work? What are some of your expectations? How is your life structured? And so on. For me, I found that I didn't find happiness at the bottom of a paycheck. I have to have a certain amount of money to live. We all do. That's life. That's capitalism. But if I didn't have my day-to-day life also structured in such a way that I was getting joy, then I was really setting myself up to constantly get all of my validation from work. And it created a really unhealthy space. So I had to work on that, because work could never fill that. That's not going to be able to do that, especially not in the way that the environment is set up right now. So what I would love is if whatever your thoughts are related to opportunities, jobs, what are some other great ways of finding freedom? What have you done that has created a change in your life that allows you more freedom, right? Because ultimately that's what, I believe that we all deserve to live a life of freedom and joy, and that work is often an impediment to that, but it doesn't have to be. And that we've all come up with healthy and unhealthy ways of coping with the way the world is structured to be able to either get through the day or thrive. And for many of us, we get to a certain point where getting through the day simply isn't enough. We were like, this is not why I'm here, to get through the day. And at that point, we're typically looking for tools, resources, support, guide, something that'll say, how do I get from just getting through the day to loving my job and thriving, right? Because research administration, in my opinion, is one of the best jobs in the world. Years ago, I was an archaeologist. I talked about this in my keynote. So I was an archaeologist, and I think I talked about this earlier too today. So I was an archaeologist, and I will share the picture on LinkedIn later. I'll put it over when we do the edit. And I went on an archaeological field school, and I was on the Eastern Pequot Tribal Nation land, reservation land, with Stephen Silliman and Two Hawks, who was the tribal cultural representative with us. And I was in this pit, and when you see this pit, you'll be like, wow, that's a pit. And I don't know if you've ever been on an archaeological dig before, but if you have, then you know that most of the time you'll go into a pit that you're slowly shaving sand off, excruciating. Do you have a little brush, a little eyeshadow brush that we really, right? And that you may not stay in the same pit for a while. You'll go down a certain amount of space, and then you'll be like, okay, there's nothing here, close it up, be done with it, and move on, right? And people move from pit to pit to pit that are about 1 meter by 1 meter. My pit ended up being 2 meters by 1 meter, going down about 1.5 meters, because I found a giant shell pit which had everything. Everything. So much stuff. So while everyone in the archaeological school who was there managed to go through multiple pits, go around the entire site, I stayed in that same pit for 6 weeks. They left me to go to other sections of the reservation because that pit, and they felt so bad. Two Hawks would, he would come and sit with me. Him and Steve would come and just sit with me because they were like, oh my God, like you're all alone. Everybody else is all over the place and you're by yourself. And in one of our many conversations during that time, we were talking about archaeology and so on and so forth and life's purpose and whatnot. And Steve talked about how he couldn't imagine doing anything else other than archaeology. And as I'm sitting in this pit covered in spiders, by the way, like, and by the way, these are like giant freaking spiders, right? So I'm covered in them. And they're like just crawling, like, and at the time, honestly, I didn't even mind. I was like, oh, look, spider. Now I see the tiniest baby spider over there. I freak out. But like, there was something about being in the space that I was like, oh, goodbye, spider. So I was so into the nature. It was so great. But I'm hot. I'm sweaty. I'm peeing in the woods, which is also not my thing. Spiders. Somebody got bit by a brown recluse. It wasn't me. And two things are important. The first is that the reason I was able to go on that field school was because of a grant that was submitted by a research administrator, because of a research administrator who took care of the check request to pay for my stipend, right? Like, yeah, I was on that field school because Steve Silliman he submitted the grant, but there was a research administrator making all of that happen. And I actually tried to find that research administrator, but I was not successful. When I came back, I met with Terry Strom, who was one of my PIs at the time. And I'd been able to take 6 weeks off. This was wonderful. My boss, Jennifer Sabag, was great. And I'm sitting in Terry's office, and we're, again, talking about having really great relationships with your PIs. We're talking about life. Same thing Steve and I were talking about, life, purpose, goals, so on. And he tells me, he was an immunology professor, and he said, researcher, and he said, you know, I always tell my fellows that don't do this if you can dream about doing anything else, because this is this is dedication. Like, it's a life's work. It's not, if you can think about doing something else, you might lose heart in this, right? And I sat there and I thought to myself, I said, Terry, I was like, I can't imagine doing anything else but research administration. And that's when I realized I wasn't going to be an archaeologist. And I started crying in Terry's office. And I'm like, Terry, I just went on this field school. I don't think I'm cut out to be a research archaeologist. And he was always so sweet. And so he laughed. And he was like, well, you don't have to decide right now. But ultimately, I did obviously, surprise, I decided to be a research administrator. But I loved the job so much, I couldn't imagine doing anything else. Why would I do anything else? Especially sit in a pit with a bunch of spiders and whatnot, right? So in fact, and for me, if I had my dream job, I would actually rather do that than consult. I like the freedom of consulting, but my dream job would be to work in a leadership level at one of these organizations who has decided to take the step where they're going to think outside the box and be like, okay, we're going to put money towards research administration. We're going to approach this differently. We are ready because whatever it is that we're doing, it is not working. And we're now at a point where we're ready to just toss it out and let's start from scratch. And we need someone to guide us. And we're not going to second guess everything, right? And this is really important. This isn't just something I'm facing. This is being faced across the country, is that there's a disconnect between the executive VP level, right, and the research administrative need level. And this is a conversation that's happening all over the place, in that I'm having conversations with my leaders. They don't understand the needs. Roseanne is actually doing a session about it at NCURA because of how difficult it is to get the buy-in from that level. So for me, God, I had like $200,000 a year to sit and revamp somebody's research administrative program and turn it into like the best, like, oh my God, to be able to collaborate with other organizations and other RAs, like, there are organizations that are already doing this, by the way, and I have friends who are working in those organizations making these changes, and I'm so excited to watch what they are doing, because that's going to be the blueprint for whatever comes next, right? Whatever it is that's happening right now in some of these organizations that are increasing their salaries, that are hiring outside the box thinkers, that are willing to say, okay, you know what? Research administration has changed like a lot. We may need to let's start again. Clean slate, start again, right? Beautiful stuff. I love watching it. That would be my dream, because and why is that? It's because I want to be a part of building something for an organization and watch it all grow into something. Like, damn, isn't that gorgeous, right? Like, how gorgeous would that be? However, in the meantime, right, until all that happens, I go in, and so as a consultant, I go in and I'm like, I will help you with your you tell me this is my problem, solve this thing. Okay, I'll solve this thing for you. And then so it's more like tactical, and I'm in and I'm out. And though I am personally very invested in my relationships with my clients, we like it's I'm a research administration coach and also crisis manager. So we are like the integrator visionary, like our relationship's always really, really good. But there is something to be said for being part of an organization where we're all in it together. As you know, I don't want to use the word family because family can be very, very toxic, not to mention some of the organizations, right? But we are together in a shared purpose, and we all buy into the fact that we're together in a shared purpose. And so I think that that's the future that's coming. I'm excited to see it happen. I would love to be a part of organizations that are doing that kind of work, both either as a consultant. But the reason why I bring this up is that for anyone thinking of jumping ship to become a consultant or do it, there are massive benefits to being a consultant. Massive benefits. There's freedom, there's income. However, there is so much effort and work that needs to be done to build your engine that allows you to have clients coming in, to continue to build your expertise, to be able to deal with cash flow issues, tax issues, health insurance issues. Like, living the consultant's life looks like the dream life, right? And I sometimes I'll get on calls with someone. I'll be like, I want to do this and do this and this, and I'm like, okay, that's all great, and you can do all those things, but at the same time, there is a security, albeit false because you can get fired at any time. But there is a security that comes from being employed, and at the same time, there's also like a great employed full time by an organization, but there's also a great sense of shared purpose and so on. So I think that that's something really important to consider, regardless of what it is that you're thinking of doing. In the meantime, here's what I want to recommend, and this how all this ties in is this, and we're going to wrap up. Oh my god, at 9:59, this is beautiful in my timing. Okay, here's how we're going to do this. Okay. The way it all starts is, it doesn't matter whether you're going somewhere or not going somewhere, whether you like where you're at or you don't like where you're at. Present, present, present. Figure out what you love to do in research administration. Figure out what your passions are and present about it at AM 66. Present about it at SRA. Present about it at your FRA, PRA. Present about it online. Write about it. Whatever it is that you love, talk about it. Talk about it, talk about it, talk about it. Talk about it, talk about it, talk about it. Funky Town. I was like, God, what song is that? Because that's how people are going to get to know you for when you are ready. Many, many years ago, there was a statistic that was banded around saying, in order for someone to buy from you or hire you or whatever it is, they need to be exposed to you as a brand, you as a person, 7 times. That number is now 15, right? So if you think about it, if you start by talking at NCURA events now, and you start by networking now, and you start by volunteering now, and you start by finding ways to get involved in your community vis-a-vis research administration now, if you never needed the community to be able to grow your career, great, right? Believe me, the community is helping your career grow, whether you know it or not. But I mean, if you never need them to be like, hey, I'm looking for a job, can you help me find a job, right? Great, you don't. But let's say you do. You send out a call to your community and say, hey, here's my resume. I'm looking for this kind of job. Or alternatively, you look in the hot jobs and you're like, hey, I like this one. My friend Jackie, knows someone else who's hiring there. Let me create that personal connection for you, right? There are a great many ways to leverage it, but it starts with being involved in SRA and NCURA. So I cannot recommend both of those enough. I typically tend to focus on NCURA. I have a longer history there. I think I won an award once at SRA, like years and years ago, like in Las Vegas, maybe. Oh, I know, it was my first speaking. I won like best new speaker or something. Oh my god, I should find that. That's so cute. Oh my god, that's adorable. Okay, I'm gonna head out. It has been so much fun hanging out with you this morning. Thank you so much for keeping me company while I put all of the NCURA events on the recording. We'll edit this. It'll all go out. In the meantime, if you have any questions related to any of these events or growing your career or what have you, please feel free. I have a free 30-minute call. Any RA can book with me at any time for any reason. I am here to help. Otherwise, have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Be enjoy.